Hello, this is the Midday Brief, and I am Kimini Nyamani Amano. Coming up, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission meet FUSAG over the latter's industrial action. Well, what's the outcome? We'll find out soon. In foreign news, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has described as constructive talks with his Russian counterpart. Stay with me, I'll bring you details of these stories and many more in a bit. Now, the National Disaster Management Organization has finally responded to appeals for help from victims of rainstorms that wreaked havoc to properties in the Bunkpurugu and East Mamprusi districts. About 6,000 residents in the two districts were displaced and properties worth millions of cedis destroyed.
Items were made up of bags of cereals, blankets, mattresses, cooking oil, plastic buckets, mats and clothing. Severe rainstorm resulting in floods early this month led to the death of one person and about 700 houses and farmland submerged. About 6,000 residents were also rendered homeless and properties worth hundreds of Ghana cedis destroyed. Deputy Northern Region Minister Alhaji Abdul Basit Husseini led officials of NADMO in the region to present the relief items to affected victims in Najo No. 1 and 2, as well as Binde, all in the Bunkpurugu district.
I recall that last week, as soon as the floods happened, following reports we got from our NADMO officials on the ground, who reported to the regional coordinator, who also reported to my minister. My minister sent me here last week. I'm sure those of them who were around will testify that they saw us. We went to visit some communities and to see how the extent. It was one of the fastest response because within 24 hours after the disaster had happened, NADMO was on the spot. When a disaster happens, you have to go and see it first.
Yes.
Know exactly what has happened and find out what the needs of the people are before you can even make a request. Yes.
He said plans are far afoot for the construction of drains in the two communities to find solution to the perennial floods in the area.
What is happening today is just the beginning of the process. We are not just coming today and that is the end. There are other things that will follow up, including the fact that we are also talking about even better planning of the area for drains and others, so that when it rains, the water can be channeled in a way that it doesn't cause any other havoc again.
Similar presentations were also made to affected victims in the East Mamprusi district.
Back here in our capital, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission on Thursday met with FUSAG over their almost 3-week strike. Now, if you recall, FUSAG has raised concerns relating to their migration onto the single spine pay policy. FUSAG also wants compensation for excessive exposure of staff to health and occupational hazards, market premium for senior staff, restoration of electricity rebate, and restoration of special allowances. And so we want to find out what's the outcome. El Ankra is head of public affairs with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. He joins us by telephone. Hello, El.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. And so what was the outcome?
Yeah, it was normal industrial relations practice. We invited them to find out from them exactly what the issue was, because to the best of our knowledge, we have met them on a couple of occasions, and each party had made their position clear. We had made our position clear. So the call for strike was a little strange to us. So we invited both FUSAG and TEWU. FUSAG was able to make it to the meeting there. Unfortunately, TEWU did not turn up.
I see. And what exactly did discussions look like?
Well, really, nothing really came up. Sorry to burst your bubble, because the FUSAG requested that they would have loved for university management to be part of the meeting as well. So we adjourned the meeting to next week Friday, but we hope the university management will be available.
Do we know why TEWU did not turn up for this meeting?
Well, they did not send us any official communication, but I had a similar interview on Radio Ghana last night, and Tewu was on the other end. Mr. Lumo of Tewu said on air that they did not turn up because they did not receive any official letter. To the best of our knowledge, we had written letters to both of them, and Mr. Lumo admitted live on radio that he actually received a call from Fair Wages and Salaries Commission inviting him to yesterday's meeting, but they failed to turn up merely because the written letter did not reach them.
I see. How soon would we see, at least we could talk about FUSAG, how soon would these negotiations yield any results to get them back to their workplaces?
Let's remember, we can't negotiate with anyone on strike, so that's out of the question. What we did was, normal was consistent with industrial relations, as in get them to come and tell us exactly what was up, because then up until yesterday, everything was out there on air, in the media. So it's when we meet again next week, Friday, that we'll be able to identify exactly why they're on strike, and we will ensure that whatever the issue is, it's supposed to be consistent with the principles of the single spine pay policy.
On the back of this, whatever the outcome of that meeting, the second meeting will be, unless FUSAG resumes work, you won't negotiate.
This is not Fair Wages demanding it. This is the Labour Act of Ghana. It is consistent with our laws in this country that you can negotiate whilst you're on strike. It's just that simple.
I see. Thank you very much, El.
You're most welcome.
Lankra is head of public affairs with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. We'll get in touch with these labor associations and find out their side of the story, especially Tewu, who did not turn up. But let's move on to some other stories, where the Minister of Roads and Highways has announced the planned closure of the Adome Bridge has been put off until further notice. Now, the bridge, which is a vital link in the road network across the Volta River, was to be closed for major rehabilitation. Now, he's announced that when members of the Australian Federal Economic Chamber called on him at the ministry.
The minister explained work on the bridge would be suspended whilst government brings in ferries to help with transportation across the river.
If we close the Adome Bridge completely, even people will not be able to cross even by foot. So we've commissioned some other company to manufacture, as part of the loan facility, to manufacture 2 ferries for us, which we will launch at Senchi, so that those ferries will be ferrying both vehicular and pedestrian travelers across the other side whilst we close the bridge for works. And until we launch the ferries, it will be very difficult to close the bridge.
He said the chamber is currently supporting the ministry to source funding for the rehabilitation of the Adome Bridge, as well as some other key projects, adding the projects will help improve the country's road network.
And they're also providing some footbridges in Accra at very critical points, Accra and Kumasi. One will be at Tetakwashi, around the former president's house, that junction. One will be at the Tech junction.
The visit, according to the minister, is part of efforts to strengthen the bilateral relations already existing between the two countries.
Now, former President Kufuor, John Ejekum Kufuor, is advocating the addition of a second chamber to Parliament as exists in the UK and other countries. John Kufuor says a second chamber, which is made up of equal representation of regions and major identifiable groups, will be ideal for the country's development. He says the second chamber will help modulate the decision of the lower house and ensure all-inclusiveness. Now, the former president also said members of Parliament should always be in Parliament and not just be part of the executive. He noted that though these suggestions may have drawbacks, it can help deepen Ghana's democracy. Ken Jurasa is a former second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. He's joined us to share his views on these call for a second chamber to Parliament. Hello, Ken.
Yes.
Many thanks for your time.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this call for a second chamber to Parliament?
Now, generally, my opinion is that we need to strengthen existing institutions. Now, we should not escape our responsibility as a country in strengthening these structures by seeking refuge in creating additional structures.
When you ask, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, my opinion is that the present role that the Council of State is playing could be improved so that it can exercise some legislative oversight or review of certain aspects of the work of Parliament. Now, the fact that the UK has a second chamber, the US has a second chamber, are based on certain historical events, and for which reason we should not just pick them and transplant them into our jurisdiction. Now, you agree with me that with the coming in of the democratic practice, a lot of the country's resources are invested in our democratic institutions, Parliament, the executive, Electoral Commission, NCCE, SHRAG, and all these institutions. And I think that the chunk of the nation's resources, which would otherwise have gone into other development issues, are focused on developing our democracy, which is good by itself. The long and short of it is that at the end of the day, we need to grow these institutions into maturity before we start looking for an external other institution to come in.
When you ask that we strengthen our institutions such as the Council of State and give it, an oversight duty, questions are also raised, especially about the way we select members of the Council of State. What should we change in that area?
Now, to tell you the truth, if the recommendation is that a second chamber should be composed of chiefs and high-profile opinion leaders, that is exactly the composition of the Council of State. And the fact that a percentage of the council members are elective gives it a truly representative character. So there's nothing wrong with the structure. What needs to be done is to vest it with the strength that will enable it exercise legislative review or oversight in certain category of processes. And now, that anything that involves the chieftaincy institution, the president is under duty to refer it to the Council of State. Now, the Council of State also has to look at and vet presidential nominees for various categories of government appointments. That is a very critical aspect of the Council of State's duties.
I see.
So we should encourage that and even strengthen it.
Right.
You see, for instance, in the UK, the history behind the creation of a second chamber was that there was an internal dispute in Parliament, and the House was split into House of Commons and the House of Lords, and it got to a point where, because of conflict between the king in the 16th century, because of conflict between the king and the House of Lords, the king by decree abolished the House of Lords, and that created some constitutional crisis.
Right.
So the multiplicity of institutions is not the way to go. What we should do is what we already have, which we acknowledge that needs strengthening, we should strengthen. I have always maintained this principle that if it is not broken, you don't fix it.
Right. Thank you very much once again, Honorable. Ken Girassa is former second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. He's been sharing his views with us on the second chamber to Parliament. Let's move on to some transport news. And the transport fare hikes have, however, not been across the board. Other commuters tell Joy News they were spared. They were spared. Now, the commercial drivers also say, though they are aware of the new fares, they will only charge commuters from the weekend.
We increase it, but up to now, the GPR2 haven't talked anything. Our chairman haven't said anything about it, so we are taking the old fare. They are our boss. Whatever they tell us, we will do. So when they increase it, we will increase it. Then when they increase the fuel, they increase the spare part and everything. So immediately that they increase it, we will also increase it.
There can be TV, cry. There be intimate to Musada. Gives a information be say, Union say, and send it to me. And yes, I are intimate fire pen near Pesada.
It is about your motive to me. I had a hand to me. So, Mr. Yan Trank a crancer. No more the barber to drive versus theatre size or say, and 2 more. And a pain on now. Normal friend will be a 2 and Fazer because domain from domain back to Achimota. They collected the normal fare, but from 8 o'clock in the morning coming, no drivers started charging extra 20 pesos. And well, which I questioned the mate. He said, okay, it is. There have been an increase across the board, an increase of 20 pesos, but it is not announced. An increase of 20 pesos, but it's not announced. But there's no need to argue.
If they increase the roll fare, there will be a lot of problem in Trotro. When you join Trotro, you see the passengers fight with the mates and all. They fight with the Trotro. The thing they must do is when they will increase the roll fare, they should announce it. Then everybody will know that today they increase the fare. Then when you are coming, you are aware that you will be paid this. Maybe me, myself, if I'm enjoying Trotro, everybody have in budget. Because if I budget about, okay, I'm going to North Kaneshi, I budget with 1 CD. But immediately I go there, they will say 1 CD, 20 pesos. That time I don't have 20 pesos. Why can I go to the North Kaneshi? I can't go. So I'll fight with the mates. Me, myself, I don't know, so I'll pay the 1 CD.
Now, the national daily minimum wage based on 27 working days has been increased by 17% from 4.48 Ghana cedis to 5.24 Ghana cedis. With effect from 1st May 2013. The base pay for public sector workers has also been increased by 10%, and that will be from 4.8 Ghana cedis to 5.32 Ghana cedis with effect from 1st January 2013. The month for commencement of payment is September 2013. The news returns shortly. You're welcome back. And moving right on, according to the National Communications Authority consultant on the mobile number portability, Ghana's mobile number portability is reported to be the most successful in Africa. Ghana in July 2011 launched the MNP, a system which allows mobile phone subscribers to move from one mobile network operator to the other without having to change their existing numbers. By the end of August this year, an estimated 900,000 mobile phone subscribers had ported to a different number, indicating a significant growth of about 21% from last year. A mobile number in Ghana currently can successfully be ported at a record time of 5 minutes, and what used to be 5 hours in July, 2011. Kofi Wampa says the recent increase in the minimum capital requirement for microfinance companies will ensure that they operate in the sector. They will ensure institutions operate in the sector and will be well capitalized. Participating in a financial sector debate in Accra, Dr. Henry Kofi Wampa indicated the central bank will continue to initiate robust financial policies and regulatory frameworks to strengthen the sector.
The central bank is particularly keen to ensure the financial sector is robust because of its enormous contribution to the economy. He explains the fairly liquid state of the well-capitalized sector is evidence the interventions are yielding results. The capital adequacy ratio for the industry is currently said to be pegged at about 18% as of July 2013, well beyond the 10% prudential limit. The asset penetration ratio of the sector to GDP is also said to be at 40.5%. Speaking at the debate organized by the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISA, Senior Research Fellow Dr. Charles Akwa said despite the claims by the central bank, the financial sector still has significant challenges which need to be addressed.
We sense that the industry is more oligopolistic than competitive, and there may be signs of collusion that we will need to check in the pricing of their products. One of the things we need to look at is the financial breadth, the diversity of providers and segments in terms of not only banks. Our financial sector is dominated by banks. Our capital market is still underdeveloped. The equity or corporate bond market is also underdeveloped or very thin, and the insurance market is still yet developing.
The central bank governor earlier touched on what is being done to check the proliferation of microfinance companies.
Currently, we have licensed close to 300 microfinance institutions. There are some which are still along the line, also waiting to be licensed. There are some even we hear from time to time operating without licensing. Policing these huge number of microfinance institutions is not a small job. Because of that, last week we established a new department that will be in charge of microfinance institutions. They would be able to, because we are going to expand that department to be able to deal with both capacity building within the sector, education and so on within the sector, as well as effectively regulating these institutions.
Dr. Henry Kofi Wampa also hinted the Bank of Ghana is working tirelessly to tackle the dollarization of the economy.
We want to encourage savings in the local currency instead of foreign currency. If you don't need foreign currency, there is no need to go and change money from the open market, the bureaus, to go and put in the bank accounts. Indeed, that's actually against the law. We have instructed the banks that they should not accept deposits, that foreign currency deposits, from those that don't generate, or the individuals or firms that don't generate foreign exchange.
Now, Twitter says it plans to join the stock market in the most hotly anticipated flotation since Facebook's last year. Referring to the official paperwork needed to join the market, the company tweeted, "We've confidentially submitted an S1 to the SEC for a planned initial public offering." Now, investors value Twitter, founded in 2006 by Jack Dorsey, Biz Stone and Evan Williams, at more than $10 billion. Twitter gave no further detail as to the timing or price of the offering. It is on track to post $583 million in revenue in 2013, according to advertising consultancy eMarketer. Now, some international news. An Indian court has sentenced 4 men to death for the gang rape and murder of a student in the capital, Delhi, a case which led to violent protests across India and new laws against rape. Mukesh Singh, Vinay Sharma, Ashke Thakur and Pawan Gupta were found guilty on all counts earlier this week. Judge Yogesh Khanna said the case fell in the rarest of rare category, rejecting pleas for lighter sentence. The woman, 23, was attacked on a bus in December and died 2 weeks later. On Friday, the judge said the attack shocked the collective conscience of India and that courts cannot turn a blind eye to such crimes. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has described as constructive talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on securing serious chemical weapons. The two men began a second day of talks in Geneva by meeting UN Arab League envoy Lakhdar Brahimi to discuss the wider issue of peace in Syria. Talks between Kerry and Lavrov on the weapons issue began on Thursday and could continue over the weekend. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday called Damascus' decision to join the Chemical Weapons Convention an important step towards the resolution of the Syrian crisis and said it showed the serious intention of President Assad to follow this path. More than 100,000 people have died since the uprising against President Assad began in 2011. Millions of Syrians have also been displaced. That's it for the segment. Rashida Baba Kadiri brings us sports news.
Welcome back. So the Ghana Premier League or the Globe Premier League is in action, full swing this Sunday, and I mean lots of action to look forward to. But I've been joined by a sports historian, James Oyedeji, who has been outside of the scene for a little while, but he's back, and I'm very happy to have him. Uncle Bode, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you back.
Thank you so much.
Yes. I know whilst you were in hospital, you were still monitoring everything that was happening on the sports scene, including the Ghana Premier League.
Sure. Every second, every event, every minute, I was in touch.
First of all, I want to find out, what is your forecast for this season, considering what happened last season with Kotoko winning the trophy, also Hartlepool having a very torrid time in the first half, but bouncing back stronger under coach David Duncan in the second half, and then all the other things that happened last season. What is your forecast for the season?
The winner will be Kumasi Asante Kotoko because they won the Super League, the Super Cup last season, and this year they repeated it. And they have a very good coach. The recruitment policy was very intact. The management have been rearranged. There's a new board in place, and I understand Sami Tuga is likely to be the
CEO.
Yes.
Oh, Samuel
so, yes.
Oh, okay.
He's had a lot of experience, not only as a player, as a Kumasi boy, and as someone who has also been with DSTV and then the Super Sports. You know, he's got a lot of exposure.
Exactly.
Yes, and the boys will take a lot of inspiration from him when they are in the field of play.
Wow, you are thinking, or you would actually even root for him to become the CEO?
Oh, sure, because he has the experience and he has the network.
But is Kotoko not too big for him?
Oh, it's too big, but you know, you start from somewhere.
And get somewhere.
And when the youngest president, as JF Kennedy, was given the mantle as the president of US, people said he was too young, but he performed.
Yes.
So age is not so much a factor. The important thing is your ability to assimilate, to learn fast, and then to execute, to take decisions on the spot instead of delaying decision taking.
Yeah.
Because the important thing is that what you call a semi-good policy or decision is better than no decision taken at all. That is the important thing in life.
I see.
Yes.
All right, that's a little bit for Asante Kotoko. You are thinking they are going to succeed again this season. They will defend the title they won last season.
Sure.
Okay, now let's look at the three promoted sides. There's Sekondi Hazakes, there's Inter Allies, and then there's Bechem United. Of course, I know you are very close to Sekondi Hazakes.
And I'm close to all the teams. Bechem, you know, Bechem had a working relationship, unofficial though, with Tudu Mighty Jets.
Yes.
So we were very happy when Mengel brought them to the, the Middle League. And then they are promoted. And I understand they have some sponsorship, some form of sponsorship. They are very comfortable at home. And I find it difficult for any team to go there and beat them because they are so used to that place, and they put a lot of fear in visiting teams. Now we come to Inter Allies. You know, Inter Allies has always been around. They've been around. Inter Allies.
They always get to the Middle League. And
yes, and apart from not even promoting to the Premier League, the guys are around. You know, they are old guys.
Yes.
Yes. When you look at them, you see a photocopy of Tema Youth, coupled with even Amidas, coupled with Liberty Professionals, Match. It's just a conglomeration of teams that have always been around in the first division. So they are going to do very well. And then adopting Tema as their home ground, I think will give the boys a lot of confidence because I know they had a lot of boys. You know, one of their boys is now the face of the club, and he's in Spain. I'm talking of Clifford Abuaji.
Clifford Abuaji.
Yes, the face of the club, and I think they will do very well. we come to Azakes. In fact, they have a sponsorship deal, and I'm very sure that they are going to produce the core of the players that form the core of the Black Stars in the 70s under Sam Dudu. Go and check the Black Star list of the 1978. They had Kuku Dazi was in Azakes, PSK Paha, you have Azipa, Manuel Pasha, so it is a generation. You know, in this life, we have this revolution time. This is the time that the new crop of players have come. Watch out for the boy wearing their number 7. It's my boy. Very, very.
What's his name?
I've forgotten his name just now, but I'll remember his name. He's very, very good. And then they have also recruited a lot of young players. And I'm very sure that a Sipun Stadium, I wish they could use Jendu Park, would be a no-go area for all teams going to second D.
Why would you want them to use a Jendu Park instead of a Sipun?
Oh, they are so used to it. There's this spiritual attachment to Jendu Park. I'm telling you, it will be easy for a team to go to Barcelona and beat Barcelona than to come second and beat Azakes.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, the Giants of the West. When people say Azakes do, the real name is Giants of the West.
Oh, okay.
In the late 50s, 60s, 70s, they have this big ball and this giant, and they write on it, the giant will eat today. The only boogie team is secondary level wise.
I see.
Yes.
I see. So you are tipping all the 3 newly promoted sides to remain in the Premier League.
Oh, they will survive. But the problem about the new entrants is that they don't start well. So by the time they try to struggle, then you know that they are caught in the relegation zone.
Exactly.
And according to Alhaji Osmanu, he defined relegation in the classical term. It's like relegation is like you being quicksand and trying to get out. The more you try,
the deeper you
get.
Yeah.
So I wish the 3 teams a good stay in the Premier League.
Otherwise, how would you also describe? I mean, how would you see Hearts performing this season under David Duncan? See what he did last season in the second half.
Hearts is a rejuvenated team. In fact, I'm looking at Hearts as a triangle. The tripod being Nelamso Mutagbe, a very good marketer, as the MD. I even called him to congratulate him, to tell him that I'll put my services at his disposal, personal disposal, not for the club, so that the administrative network will be very strong. With the exit of Ashford, I think Hartman has done enough, Elijah Kabir has done so, but I know that Nell will do good. Then we are looking at someone who has transformed traditional chieftaincy virtues into business.
Modern, yeah.
Modern business. You saw the right of
modern business.
Yes, so you know I'm talking of the Togo himself. He's very good. And then we come to Duncan. David Duncan is a very, very good coach. Not as a former player of Olympics, but someone who has trained a lot of boys who are now in the limelight. When you look at this squad, that's 17 squad. Am I right? I think that's the squad that we took to Gambia.
Exactly.
Where they played against Osam Dudu's cadets. And then they came second. Unfortunately, there was one incident that I don't want to
that we don't want to remember, of course.
So they have a good coach who will hold the technical aspect of the team. You have a very good administrator who will handle that. Now the medical, I don't know whether Ozzy alone can handle it. I think they should link up with either one of these general hospitals, either what they call Kaneshi, or
Rage or
no, Rage is too big. Oh no, all the hospitals are big now. I was looking at Labadi.
Which one?
Labadi Polyclinic. It is now a general hospital.
Yes, La General Hospital.
So now you should link up. You see, there should be a linkage in the society. And then one other thing that is missing is that if you have collapsed the Auroras, I'm using it in
the junior team.
Then there should be some schoolboys who will be coming to the field and play with the hope of identifying somebody like Tofik
Jibril.
To be, yes. Then even those days, Ishmael, all of them, they were picked from the junior teams.
Yes.
House of Folk will do very well.
Can they finish in the top 4?
Oh, sure, they will definitely finish the top 4. You know, they were hesitant. Yes. And I told Nell Armstrong, if Nell is watching me, I said, don't be in a hurry to go to Africa. 3-year development plan. This year, top 4. Second year, you have qualified. Third year, you are the league leader. And then you go back and add to the number of trophies you have won in this country. From 1911, They should have their stadium. I'm sorry to say, but they need their own.
That isn't a lie anyway. But talking about the Ghana Premier League, these are the fixtures that are coming up this weekend. At the Jemfi Park in Bekwai is New Edibiase up against Hearts of Folk, and then Kumasi Asante Kotoko, they would host Aduana Stars. Remember that Kotoko are still under a ban, so they will be playing this game not at the Baba Yara Stadium but at the Sunyani Coronation Park. Inter Allies will host Dwarfs at the Tema Stadium, and then in Second D is Hazakes up against Mediama. That's a local derby. Bechem United, they will host Amidas Professionals in Bechem. Then at the Golden City Park in Brekum, Chelsea will host King Faisal. Let's see if Chelsea can have their name change realizing. Then they'll become FC Brekum. But for now, they're still Chelsea. They'll be hosting King Faisal at the Golden City Park in Brekum. At the Kwando Park is Ash Gold versus Hearts of Lions, and then Liberty Professionals, they would also take WA All Stars at the Accra Sports Stadium. Liberty Professionals cannot also play at their home grounds as the Karindorf Park because they have certain things to put in place to meet the standards according to the Premier League board. So they'll be playing their first half home matches at the Accra Sports Stadium. Now, away from that, let's talk about national issues. We know that on Monday at exactly 10 hours GMT or 12 hours Central African time, there will be that big draw by CAF, and it's going to happen as a result of the playoffs for the World Cup 2014 in Brazil. And there are 10 teams that have qualified actually for the playoffs, and so they will be seeded. So 5 of them will be seeded, and then the other 5 will be unseeded, so that we are able to find the pairings. And then there will also be a draw to find out which team plays home first. So 10 teams will be placed into 2 groups, 1 pot and then another pot. So let me take you through the first pot, which happens to be the top 5 countries in Africa. We have Ivory Coast, Ghana, Algeria, Nigeria, and Tunisia. Remember that Cape Verde have lost out in the playoffs because they have been disqualified by FIFA for using an unqualified player against Tunisia. So they have been disqualified. So Tunisia will take their place. And then in the pot 2, which are the unseeded teams, Egypt, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Senegal, and Ethiopia, which means that Ghana will be playing against one of these other countries, Egypt, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Senegal, or Ethiopia. Uncle Bode, what will it be like?
Oh yes, the 5
which teams? Okay.
The 5 seeded teams are likely to qualify for Brazil Rio de Janeiro 2014. The 5 seeded teams, Ivory Coast will qualify, Ghana will qualify, Nigeria will qualify. I'm looking at Algeria qualifying because of their current form, and Tunisia. They should also take advantage of this boardroom points and then go to the World Cup.
Which means that you think Egypt will not qualify, Burkina Faso will not qualify, Cameroon cannot qualify.
No, it's not the corollary. I did the obvious first. Okay. Those seeded are most likely to qualify. Okay. If there will be any pitfall, then I'm looking at Cameroon. Please read my lips, if and only if Etofis plays in that team, okay, then they will have a potent team which can offset either of these two, either Tunisia or Algeria.
My final question to you, which of these 5 unseeded countries you think Ghana can draw?
It's a difficult question. I pray that we draw Ethiopia.
Because it's the cheapest side.
No, it is not the cheapest, because we have the pedigree. We can overwhelm them. If you listen to the Zambian coach, at the end of the match, what did he say? He said we are in a country that's not a small country, a small football playing country. Ghana is a very big football country.
You don't want us to draw Egypt?
No, Egypt, they have the pedigree to us, Ghana, because they won it twice before we even came in '63.
Cameroon too can outwit us.
No, Cameroon, Ghana is supposed to be the boogie team to Cameroon. Please let me take people through. Even when we co-hosted CAN 2000 with Nigeria. They scored first. They were panicking. They should have increased the score. They waited till Kwame Ayew equalized. And then in '82, when we played them in Libya, when we had no team, when Opoku Afuye was even telling Afrani and Osam Dodu that, are we going to play these tall giants? And so put the ball down. We beat them. George Alassane, Bo King. There are a lot of... Then Osam Dodu took a makeshift blaster team made up of only second year Azake. They went to Yaoundé, drew with Cameroon, goalless draw. At that time, Cameroon were using, they were not using Antoumbe, they also Thomas Nkono, African #1.
Oh yeah, trust Uncle Bode, he has all the history for all the African countries. Yes. He knows it from A to Z. All right, Uncle Bode, thanks very much. Okay, and then very finally, we ended on this one. Mayweather and Canelo are fighting tonight. Who is going down?
Canelo will go down.
Mayweather will win.
Yeah, because of the generation gap. 13 years gap is not as small. The experience will be there.
And when he wins, he will make $41.5 million.
Yes, and then it's exclude the pay-per-view.
Yes.
Which will even gross in more millions.
$200 million we are expecting from this fight tonight.
Yes, it's going to be the highest purse in history. And I remember the first biggest purse was when Cassius Clay, who was trying to metamorphose into Muhammad Ali, fought Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier, I want to tell people today, is the person who has been described in the history of boxing as the person born with the body of steel who can absorb any punch.
Thank you very much, James Oyedeji, for that bit of history. Now, the English Premiership is up this weekend on Joy Sports on Multi-TV. That game from the Britannia Stadium, Stoke City versus Manchester City, is what we show you. But here's a preview as to the matches that will be coming on this weekend.
Old Trafford is the setting for Saturday's early kick-off as reigning champions Manchester United face newly promoted Crystal Palace. Despite an emphatic opening day win, David Moyes' start to life in the Red Devils' hot seat has proved a tumultuous one. Defeat to bitter rivals Liverpool last time out means it's just 4 points from a possible 9. That frustration was compounded on transfer deadline day when only Marouane Fellaini was added to the squad. Having opened the season with 2 defeats, Palace recorded their first win back in the top flight a fortnight ago as Sunderland were rolled over at Selhurst Park. Keen to build on that success, manager Ian Holloway added 6 new faces to his squad before the transfer window closed. Dietmar Hamann has played more than 150 Premier League games and expects the champions to come out on top in this one.
I think
The pick of Saturday's 3 o'clock games is at the Stadium of Light, where Sunderland take on big spending Arsenal. Paolo Di Canio's side have endured a tough start to the season. The Black Cats have amassed just a single point from 3 games, and defeat at Crystal Palace before the international break left them languishing just a place off the bottom. Arsenal arrive on Weir's side, buoyed by their North London derby triumph over Tottenham last time out. That made it 4 wins on the spin in all competitions, making opening day defeat to Aston Villa seem like a distant memory for Arsene Wenger's men. The Frenchman made a big statement on deadline day when he spent over £40 million on Mesut Ozil, who could make his debut on Saturday afternoon.
I think he is a style of play that can well integrate our style of play. Because we have a game that is based on movement, technical ability, creativity, and he has all the attributes to be one of the leaders of our team.
Saturday's late kick-off is at Goodison Park, where Everton take on Chelsea. The Roberto Martinez era has started in steady fashion, with the Toffees drawing their opening 3 games. The emergence of Ross Barkley has been an undoubted plus, especially in the wake of Marouane Fellaini's deadline day departure. However, Martinez was able to hold on to Leighton Baines and also added James McCarthy, Gareth Barry and Romelu Lukaku to his squad, though the latter will not be allowed to feature against his parent club. The second coming of Jose Mourinho has seen Chelsea make an unbeaten start to the season with 2 wins and a draw from their 3 games played. Eden Hazard and Oscar are the main doubts ahead of the trip north, while Mourinho's new signings Willian and Samuel Eto'o stand by for debuts.
Always a tough place.
Preview from the English Premiership. Let's check out the fixtures for this weekend coming up. And I've told you already that on Saturday, we're showing you that game from the Britannia Stadium between Stoke City and Manchester City. But other games that are coming up, Manchester United up against Crystal Palace. Aston Villa will host Newcastle United. Fulham welcome West Bromwich Albion. Hull City would also take on Cardiff City. Remember that Cardiff City beat Manchester City in their last game, 3-2. Let's see if they can keep up the momentum. And let's see if Manchester City can also recover from that shock defeat to Cardiff City. Sunderland will play host to Arsenal. Norwich City travel to Tottenham Hotspur. Chelsea would also move away from the Stamford Bridge to Everton. And then Southampton, they take on West Ham United. That game between Southampton and West Ham United will be live on Joy 99.7 FM on the Sunday Sports Arena, courtesy our partners, the BBC. Now let's talk about the Spanish La Liga. And Gareth Bale, the guy who broke this transfer record with his 100 million euro signing to Real Madrid, is making his debut on Saturday against Villarreal, according to Coach Ancelotti. He held his first training during the week. Let's catch up with what happened at the Camp Nou.
It's the $1 million handshake. Cristiano Ronaldo greeted Gareth Bale on Wednesday as the Welshman turned up for training with Real Madrid for the first time.
Nice to meet you. You okay?
Inside the club's Valdebebas training ground, the manager Carlo Ancelotti and his assistant Zinedine Zidane also welcomed the record signing. Bale then joined the rest of the players for a 2-hour session, meeting up with his old Spurs teammate Luka Modric.
Yeah, I remember my first game.
No one, except perhaps for Ancelotti, knows whether the former Tottenham man will make his debut during Saturday's La Liga match against Villarreal. But Wales manager Chris Coleman said this week that Bale's not fit enough to play a full 90 minutes. He played 30 minutes of Wales's 3-0 defeat to Serbia on Tuesday, and that was his first competitive action since July. Real have won their opening 3.
All right, so that's the latest from the Santiago Bernabeu, the home grounds of Real Madrid, and Gareth Bale will be making his debut against Villarreal. Carlo Ancelotti has confirmed that. Okay, now let's check out the fixtures coming up for this weekend in the Spanish La Liga. And we see that soon. We see Atletico Madrid taking on Almeria. Levante are up against Real Sociedad. Barcelona at the Camp Nou, they will host Sevilla FC. Villarreal, they host Real Madrid. Granada are at home to Espanyol. Getafe, they will welcome Osasuna. Rayo Vallecano go away to Malaga. Valencia would also go away to Real Betis. But Real Valladolid, they travel to Elche. And hopefully we'll see Ghanaian youngster Richmond Boachiadon for Elche once more after getting his debut goal in his debut game coming off the bench. Atletico Bilbao would also play host to Celta Vigo. That will do it for Sports on Midday Brief, which is proudly sponsored by Tigo. Smile, you've got Tigo. My name is Rashida Baba Kadiri.
You're welcome back. Now, the latest celebrity lovebirds in town, Ghana's Elikem and Zimbabwe's Pokelo, nicknamed Polychem, have been telling Joy News Showbiz that their love affair is for real and it will last forever. Pokelo also talks about how hard Elikem has been working to make enough money to be able to pay her bride price, which we are told is such a great deal in Zimbabwe.
Together for 2 months, every day, 24 hours under camera. People don't realize that being in the Big Brother house for 2 months is literally like being together for 2 years. Because by the end of 1 week, you know literally everything, and even things you didn't want to know about the other person. So, we've known each other for, it might be a short space of time in terms of months, but in reality, we've spent too many hours together.
Yeah, now, let me say this real quick. It's 24 hours for 2 months. Now, on the normal case, you only see someone you start talking to, let's say probably an hour or two a day, basically. Out of a week, let's say 10 hours. But there's a situation where 24 hours times 7 times a week gives you what? 100, 200 and something? My maths is bad as well. But all I'm trying to say is being with someone 24 hours a day for 2 months is equal to trying to know the person for about 2 years. So we've gone past that level, and it's not a rush relationship at all. At all.
Yeah. So the bride price. It's a huge sum. Elegant says it's still gathering money.
Yeah, it's quite pricey in Zimbabwe to pay bride price. So
to marry a fresh girl.
To marry a fresh girl. You don't come cheap. If you like it, you have to pay for it. So yeah, it's quite a bit of money, but he's been working hard lately. A lot of job offers and movies coming up. So I'm sure by December he'll have the money.
No, but Ghana, please, the account number is 22221. Please deposit small. $1. $1. We'll get there.
Have you done the white proposal to Pokelo already?
No. We haven't done any form of. We're not trying to rush
anything.
Relationship, anything.
Yeah.
So.
I'm enjoying being a girlfriend. I'm not ready to be a wife yet, so we're not in a hurry. Contrary to what people think, we're not in a hurry. I'm enjoying being a girlfriend, and I don't want him to propose anytime soon.
You like it is nice.
Yeah.
There was some drama 2 days ago in Zimbabwe. We had an interview, and I was supposed to act a proposal. Pokelo was shaking the whole time. At the end of the whole thing, she was like, whoosh, I wasn't ready to be a wife. I would have been pressured to probably say yes or no, I don't know. But we're not in a rush whatsoever.
To a proposal? Yes, but again, not anytime soon.
One step at a time, baby.
Not anytime soon. I'm not in any hurry. We can be dating for the next couple of months or whenever. Not too long, but I'm not in a hurry.
Can I use this platform opportunity to, invite Ghanaians, say thank you for my party that's coming on the 13th of September.
Friday, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Bukele's going to be there. 13th of September, Aphrodisiac nightclub, and part of the fans are going into supporting the Mamie Kwea.
The girl, the hole in the heart.
Yeah, we saw her this morning, and we're trying to raise $25,000. We are just contributing small, but.
That's it for the hour. A recap of our headlines. Fair Wages and Salaries Commission meets FUSAG over the latest industrial action. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has described as constructive talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on securing serious chemical weapons. That's more news on myjoyonline.com. Thanks for your company. Have a lovely weekend. My name is Kimini Nyamani Amano.